I swear, the moment she walked through that door, I knew. You don't need a private investigator when you've been married long enough. You can smell betrayal the way you smell burnt toast. Emily strolled in with her hair curled, jeans 2 sizes too tight, and a grin that didn't belong to a married woman. Behind her, a man I'd never seen before, leaning against a black Escalade like he'd just stepped out of a cologne commercial. Jason. That was his name, though I didn't know it yet. His arm was wrapped around 2 boys who looked at my house like it was their theme park. And right there, at the edge of the doorway, was my son Noah, 12 years old, trembling, eyes darting from his mother to me like he'd just realized monsters don't always hide under the bed. Sometimes, they walk in holding your wife's hand. Emily didn't waste time. She tossed her hair back and said, casual as you please, Mark, meet Jason and his boys. They'll be staying here for a bit. I think it's time we stop pretending. Pretending what, exactly? That we were a family? That I hadn't carried this marriage on my back while she reinvented herself every 6 months with new diets, new wardrobes, and new excuses? I laughed, not the warm, happy kind. The kind that comes from somewhere hollow. She marched past me, heels clicking like war drums, Jason in tow, his kids dragging in suitcases as if we'd been renting the place out on Airbnb. Noah clung tighter to my arm. Dad, he whispered, voice breaking, why is he here? Emily glanced over her shoulder, smug as a cat with feathers in her teeth. Because he's the one keeping me warm now. That line didn't just hit me. It detonated. I should have exploded right there. Thrown Jason out, screamed, made a scene. But no, I stood still. Because rage is loud and strategy is quiet. And I had already started collecting. Months of late-night phone bills, suspicious charges, little breadcrumbs she thought I was too blind to notice. She thought she was 10 steps ahead. Truth was, I'd been sitting 3 moves in front of her the whole time. Noah, bless his heart, did what I couldn't in that moment. He pointed straight at her and shouted, loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "You're not my mom anymore." Emily froze. For once, she didn't have a smirk ready. I just stood there, arms crossed, the ghost of a smile tugging at my lips. Because that, right there, was the first crack in her perfect little performance. And trust me, cracks always spread. Emily thought she had me cornered, like I was some abandoned mutt that would just slink off while she redecorated our life with Jason's cologne and his smug grin. What she didn't know was that every late night, she worked late. I wasn't just sitting on the couch with a beer. I was working too. I walked down the hall, Noah trailing close behind like a soldier in formation, and opened the drawer in my nightstand. Inside, beneath old birthday cards and tangled charger cables, was a manila folder I'd been building for months. Evidence. Receipts. A paper trail she thought she'd buried in hotel rooms, and deleted messages. I came back to the living room, folder in hand. Jason was lounging on my couch like he'd paid the mortgage, flipping through channels. His kids were raiding Noah's snack cabinet, crumbs already on the counter. And Emily, my wife, was pouring herself a glass of wine, like she'd just come home from work and was winding down. I dropped the folder onto the coffee table. It landed with a satisfying thud. Paper spilled out, hotel receipts, screenshots, bank statements. Her face changed in an instant. The smirk evaporated, replaced with the color draining from her cheeks. "You've been spying on me," she barked. "No," I said calmly. "I was collecting evidence." "There's a difference." Jason sat up a little straighter, trying to play diplomat. "Look, man, this doesn't have to get messy." I cut him off. "Messy? You're in my house, eating my food, with my wife, and you're worried about messy?" Emily tried again, voice dripping venom. "You're boring, Mark. Predictable. I needed a man who made me feel something again." I leaned back, folded my arms, and smiled. Not because I was happy, but because she had no idea how far ahead of her I already was. "Good," I said. "Then you'll really feel what's coming next." She thought I meant a fight. She thought I'd scream, throw them out, maybe even cry. She didn't realize that the moment I built that folder, the game shifted. This wasn't about emotion anymore. This was about execution. Jason shifted uncomfortably. Noah sat on the stairs, silent, burning holes through his mother with his eyes. I picked up one of the papers from the pile, a hotel receipt, signed in her name. Hilton, 3 nights. While I was in Michigan visiting my mother. "You remember what you told me that weekend?" Emily swallowed. "I was sick," she muttered. I tapped the receipt. "Guess the Hilton has a great pharmacy." The silence was heavier than any shouting match could have been. And in that silence, I saw it. Her confidence cracking, her little empire trembling. I smiled again. Because cracks, once they start, they don't stop. The thing about silence is, it makes liars nervous. Emily was pacing, wine glass clutched like a lifeline, while Jason tried to play calm in the middle of a battlefield he didn't understand. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and slid another paper across the table. This one was special. A screenshot. Jason's own words, sent to one of Emily's friends on Instagram, stole her from her loser husband. Man doesn't even know what's happening. Jason's face drained. His smooth confidence cracked like porcelain dropped on concrete. He opened his mouth, then closed it. No defense. No excuse. Just silence. Emily snatched the paper, skimmed it, and spun on him. You said you deleted those messages. He tried to stammer something about being drunk, about joking. But she wasn't listening. She was realizing that the fortress she thought she'd built with him had holes big enough to drive that Escalade through. Noah shifted on the stairs, voice quiet but steady. Told you, Mom. You're fake. I almost laughed right there. Not because it was funny. None of this was funny, but because my 12-year-old was saying the things grown men choke on. Emily whipped back toward me, desperate now. So what, Mark? You think this means you win? You're still boring. You're still predictable. What? You're going to show this to a lawyer. Go ahead. You'll never take the house. I smiled. Oh, Emily. You still don't get it, do you? I leaned back, crossed my arms, and let her see it in my face. That calm, dangerous stillness that only comes when the storm is already past. While you were busy playing house with him, I said, nodding toward Jason, I was busy too. Bank accounts, credit cards, property deeds. You'd be amazed how fast things can move when your spouse is too busy lying to notice. Her eyes narrowed. What did you do? I didn't answer. I just let the silence hang there. Jason looked between us, nervous now, finally realizing he'd walked into a chess match where he was just a pawn. Noah whispered, just loud enough for her to hear. He's not boring, Mom. He's ready. Emily's face flickered. Fear, maybe, or the first hint of realizing that for once in her life, she wasn't holding the cards. And that was the best part. Because the game hadn't even really started yet. Here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't break a man like me. It forges him. And while Emily thought she'd cornered me into some cliché soap opera ending, she didn't realize I'd been building my exit strategy the same way I'd built my business. Quietly, carefully, and with an attention to detail she could never fake. She was still pacing in the living room, barefoot now, tapping her wine glass like a metronome for lies. Jason sat frozen on the couch, like a kid caught cheating on an exam. Noah stayed on the stairs, his eyes burning holes in both of them, silent but present, like my witness. My anchor. I picked up another sheet from the folder and held it between my fingers. This, I said, flicking the edge, is from the joint account. Funny thing, I noticed $4,800 gone the same weekend you told me you were visiting your sister. Except your sister sent me photos that weekend from Napa. Alone. Emily scoffed, but it was weak. So what? I can spend money. It's my account too. Of course you can, I said calmly. Except the charge was to a jewelry store in Santa Monica. Men's jewelry. Jason's size, if I'm not mistaken. Jason shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the watch on his wrist. Emily's lips pressed tight. You bought him gifts with our money? I asked, letting the weight of the words linger. That's bold, even for you. She shot back, voice sharp. Oh, please. You're just mad because I finally wanted someone exciting. You with your routines, your spreadsheets, your dull little life. Jason makes me feel alive. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, voice steady. Alive? Emily, you can call it alive if you want. I call it sloppy. And sloppy doesn't end well. Jason finally piped up, trying to sound confident. Look, man, this doesn't have to get ugly. We can figure this out like adults. I turned my gaze on him. Calm, measured, the way a hunter looks at a deer that hasn't realized it's already trapped. Jason, the moment you walked into my house with your kids, it was already ugly. You just don't know how bad it's going to get, for you and for her. Emily rolled her eyes, trying to regain control. Oh, give me a break, Mark. What are you going to do? Wave papers at me? You don't scare me. I smiled. That smile unnerved her more than yelling ever could. I don't need to scare you. I just need to show you what I've already done. I stood, walked calmly to my office, and came back with a laptop. I opened it on the coffee table. The screen lit up with folders neatly organized, bank transfers, email chains, property records, all with timestamps. I clicked one open. This is the title transfer, I explained, voice level. House isn't in both our names anymore. Just mine. Moved it 2 months ago when I noticed your spending patterns. You didn't even notice the mail change, did you? Her jaw clenched. Here's the retirement account. I continued, clicking another folder. Split into trusts. One for Noah, one with my name only. You thought I was boring? No. Emily, I was preparing. Jason shifted again, uneasy. That can't be legal. It's airtight, I said. Everything above board. Lawyers checked it twice. Emily's mask finally cracked. Her voice lost the smugness, replaced with something raw. You can't just cut me out, Mark. I've given you years of my life. I leaned back, folded my arms, and let the words fall like stone. No, you've taken years of my life. And tonight, I'm taking them back. The silence stretched. Even the ticking clock in the hall seemed louder. Noah spoke up from the stairs, voice clear. He's right, Mom. Emily spun on him. Don't you dare take his side. His side. Noah shot back, surprising even me with his fire. You already picked yours. And it wasn't ours. That hit her harder than anything I could have said. Her face crumpled, then hardened again, like wet cement setting crooked. Jason tried again, weakly. Mark, man, maybe we should go. Let things cool off. I stood. You're not going anywhere. Not yet. You walked into my house with your little performance, and you're going to hear the ending. I clicked one final folder on the laptop. Emails popped up on the screen, forwarded to me from an anonymous account I'd set up months ago. Her messages. Jason's. Plans. The kind of things that don't just embarrass, but ruin. Emily's face drained. She knew what I had. These, I said quietly, are already copied. Cloud storage. Flash drive in the safe. One set with my lawyer. Another with HR at your firm. One push of a button, and your reputation is gone. Both of you. Jason's voice cracked. You wouldn't. I cut him off. Don't test me. Emily finally broke. Why? Why are you doing this? Why? I asked, stepping closer, lowering my voice so it cut like ice. Because you thought you could humiliate me. Replace me in my own house. Parade me like a fool in front of my son. You wanted me to be boring? Predictable? Well, here's something unpredictable. I don't lose. Her hand trembled around the wine glass. She set it down, slowly, carefully, like it was the last thing tethering her to the moment. Jason stood, tugging his kids toward the door. We're leaving. Now. Emily's voice rose, desperate. No. Jason, don't. I held up a hand. Let him. He was never your salvation. Just another mistake. Jason hesitated, then bolted, muttering curses under his breath as he herded his boys outside. The slam of the door echoed like a verdict. That left just Emily, Noah, and me. She looked at me, eyes darting, searching for some angle, some way out. But there was none. She'd lost before she even started. Mark, she whispered, voice cracking. We can fix this. I'll stop. I'll make it right. I shook my head, calm and final. You don't fix betrayal, Emily. You document it. You expose it. And then you bury it. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then sank onto the couch, hands shaking. For the first time in years, she looked small. Weak. I turned to Noah. Go upstairs, son. Get some sleep. He hesitated. Are you okay, Dad? I nodded. Better than ever. He went upstairs, leaving me alone with her. I closed the laptop, slid the folder back into my bag, and looked her dead in the eye. Emily, you've spent months writing a story where I'm the dull placeholder. But here's the twist. The placeholder's the one who gets the last word. And trust me, my ending won't be the one you rehearsed. Her lip trembled. What are you going to do? I smiled, slow and deliberate. You'll find out. When it hurts the most. Then I walked out, left her sitting there in the ruins she'd built for herself, and for the first time in months, the night air felt clean in my lungs. Because this was just the beginning. When I stepped outside that night, the air had the bite of November in it. Crisp, sharp, honest. Funny how the outside world never changes when your whole life detonates inside four walls. The neighbor's porch lights glowed steady, a dog barked down the block, and my own breath came out visible in the cold. Normalcy everywhere, except in me. Jason's Escalade was still parked at the curb, headlights glaring as he tried to strap his boys in while Emily screamed his name from the doorway. He didn't look back. He didn't even pretend to be gallant. Just floored the gas and disappeared into the dark, leaving tire tracks and cowardice behind. I stood on the sidewalk, watching his taillights shrink. Emily's voice floated out, shrill, cracked, desperate. "Mark, Mark, we need to talk." But I didn't answer. I just looked up at the sky. Quiet. Steady. If I'd answered her then, I would have wasted the moment. And I don't waste anymore. Instead, I walked down the block, pulled out my phone, and opened the encrypted folder I'd labeled June Justice. My thumb hovered over the files: bank statements, screenshots, hotel receipts, emails. Each one was a blade, sharpened and ready. Revenge isn't about rage. Rage is sloppy, loud, easy to dismiss. Revenge is precision. It's the sound of a safe clicking open, the feeling of a chess piece sliding into the perfect square. Revenge isn't about breaking someone. It's about leaving them standing, fully aware of who put them there. By the time I came back inside, the house was silent. Emily sat curled on the couch, wine glass still on the table, eyes rimmed red. She looked up at me like a drowning woman begging for a rope. "Please, Mark," she whispered. "We can work this out. I'll change. I'll stop talking to him. We can." I cut her off with a raised hand. "Stop." Her mouth snapped shut. "You don't get to rewrite this. Not anymore. You don't get to plead after months of laughing at me behind my back, after dragging my son into this mess. No, your part's already written. You just haven't read the ending yet." She shivered, but I wasn't angry. I was calm, deadly calm. "Go upstairs," I said. "Sleep in the guest room." Her eyes widened. "Guest? Until this is over, that's where you stay. This house doesn't belong to you anymore." She opened her mouth to argue, then thought better of it. She rose slowly, gathered herself, and disappeared upstairs without another word. When the door clicked shut, I exhaled. For the first time, I wasn't reacting, I was directing. The next morning, I started my real work. First step was exposure. But not all at once. That would have been too merciful. I drove to my office, early, before the sun came up, and sat at my desk with the laptop. The company ran on reputation, and Emily's little affair had handed me a loaded weapon. She'd used company time, company credit, even company events to fuel her little romance with Jason. And I had every receipt. By 8:15 a.m., I had sent 3 anonymous packages. One to HR at her brokerage firm, one to the state licensing board, and one, just for flavor, to the wives of 2 of her colleagues she often bragged to. Screenshots, hotel bills, a neat timeline with her name at the top. I didn't sign them. I didn't need to. Truth doesn't need a signature. At 9:30 a.m., I opened my burner email account and sent a short, clean message to Jason's employer. Attached, photos of him and Emily at the Hilton, timestamped during a week he'd billed his company for training travel. I added 2 sentences. Employee misconduct is a liability. Evidence attached. Handle appropriately. Click. Sent. I leaned back in my chair and smiled. Not wide. Not smug. Just enough to feel it in my bones. When I came home that evening, Emily was waiting. She rushed to me as soon as I walked through the door. "Mark, something's happening." HR called me in. They had printouts. Of us. Of me and Jason. They asked if it was true. I set my briefcase down gently, as though nothing unusual had been said. "And what did you say?" Her lip trembled. I denied it. I said it was fake, that someone was trying to smear me. But they didn't look like they believed me. "Of course they didn't," I said softly. "Because liars are predictable. And predictable people don't survive long in my world." She flinched like I'd slapped her. Then my phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. "Everything's in motion. She'll be served within 48 hours. Clean. Aggressive. Exactly like we planned." I looked at her, calm as stone. 2 days, Emily. You'll get the papers. And when you do, remember, you wrote every word of this ending." Her knees gave out. She sank onto the couch, sobbing. But I didn't comfort her. That part of me died the night she walked in with Jason. Noah came downstairs, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Dad?" he asked quietly. I turned, softening. "Yeah, buddy. Are we gonna be okay?" I put a hand on his shoulder, steady and firm. "We're better than okay. We're free." He nodded, eyes hard but proud, and headed toward the door. "I'll be at Mike's house after school." When he left, Emily looked at me, desperate. You're turning him against me. I shook my head. No, you did that all on your own. The next 48 hours were delicious. Emily's phone never stopped buzzing. Colleagues asking questions, friends dropping her from group chats, whispers spreading faster than she could keep up. Jason tried to call her, but I'd already sent his girlfriend screenshots too. His calls turned into shouting voicemails, and silence. By the time the papers arrived, served neatly by a man in a suit on our porch, Emily was already unraveling. Her career was gone, her affair was ash, and her son wouldn't look her in the eye. She clutched the envelope with shaking hands, looked at me, and whispered, "How could you?" I tilted my head, calm and steady. How could I? Emily, the real question is, how couldn't I? Because revenge, when done right, isn't about ending someone quickly. It's about letting them live in the ruins they built, with no one to blame but themselves. And this was just the ruins foundation. That night, after Noah went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee in silence. Emily lingered at the top of the stairs, pale, broken, unsure if she should even come down. I didn't call up to her, didn't ask if she wanted coffee, didn't acknowledge her at all. Because the cruelest revenge isn't fire or fury. It's silence. It's being erased. And for the first time, Emily finally understood what it felt like to be invisible. The next morning started like any other. The coffee machine hissed. The toaster clicked. Noah shuffled downstairs, rubbing sleep from his eyes. If someone had looked through the window, they'd have seen a father and son having a normal Wednesday breakfast. But normal was gone. Normal had been burned out of the house with Jason's cologne and Emily's lies. What remained now was structure. My structure. Emily came down late, her hair tangled, face pale, eyes swollen from crying. She sat at the counter, silent, watching Noah munch on cereal. She looked like a stranger trespassing in her own kitchen. "Good morning," I said evenly, not looking up from my mug. She didn't answer. She just watched Noah, almost begging with her eyes for him to look back at her. But he didn't. He kept his gaze on his bowl, shoulders stiff, the way a soldier braces for incoming fire. When he finished, he stood, slung his backpack over his shoulder, and said, "See you tonight, Dad." "See you, champ," I said, ruffling his hair. He walked past Emily without a word. The door closed behind him, leaving a silence thick enough to choke on. Finally, Emily spoke. "He won't even look at me." I set my mug down gently. "You wanted freedom, remember? Freedom has consequences." Her lip trembled. "I didn't want this." "Didn't you?" I asked, tilting my head. "You wanted excitement, adventure, a man who made you feel alive. Well, here you are. Alive. Free. Congratulations." Her hands balled into fists. "You're cruel." I leaned back in my chair. "No, Emily. I'm precise. Cruel is sloppy. Cruel is hitting someone and leaving a bruise. Precision is removing their foundations so they collapse on their own. You're not dealing with a cruel man. You're dealing with a builder who knows how to dismantle." She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. And maybe she didn't. Because the version of me she thought she knew, the quiet, dependable placeholder, that man had been buried the moment Jason stepped into my living room. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with an email notification. Subject line, "Termination of employment, effective immediately." I smiled. HR moved fast. Attached was Emily's dismissal letter. Breach of conduct, violation of company ethics, misuse of company funds. They didn't mince words. She walked into the kitchen while I was reading it, phone in her hand. Her face was drained of color. "They fired me," she whispered. "Mark, they fired me. After 10 years, just like that." I closed the laptop. Actions have consequences. Tears welled in her eyes. "Do you even care?" "Care," I repeated. "Emily, when you came through that door with him, you ended every right you had to my care. You didn't want a husband. You wanted a safety net. Well, the net's gone. Enjoy the fall." She sank into a chair, sobbing quietly. But I didn't soften. I couldn't. Not anymore. That night, after Noah went to bed, I pulled out another folder from my drawer. This one wasn't paper, it was digital. Bank transfers, credit reports, joint investments. Emily had racked up debt on credit cards I'd never touched, hidden shopping sprees and luxury getaways disguised as girls' trips. While she thought she was clever, I'd been tracking every dime. Quietly transferring balances, rerouting funds, protecting my side of the house while she built hers on sand. At midnight, I logged into the joint account, and clicked the final transfer. With one keystroke, the balance dropped to zero. Everything moved into a trust under my name and Noah's. When Emily checked it the next morning, her scream echoed through the house. "Mark, what did you do?" I walked in calmly, sipping my coffee. "I secured my future. Our son's future. Yours." I shrugged. "Not my concern." "You can't just take everything," she spat. "Can't I?" I asked. "Go ahead, call the bank. Call a lawyer. Ask them who's been quietly preparing for 6 months. Ask them who owns the house, the car, the accounts. Ask them what happens when one spouse is careful and the other is careless." She froze, mouth open, no words coming out. "That's the thing about chess, Emily," I said softly. "By the time the queen realizes she's trapped, the king's already moved." 2 days later, Jason's girlfriend posted photos online. Him carrying boxes out of her apartment, looking like a wet dog in the rain. Emily saw them. She slammed her phone onto the counter, face twisted in rage. "He left me," she whispered. I chuckled. "Of course he did. Jason doesn't keep. He borrows. You weren't his first, and you won't be his last." Her voice cracked. "So that's it. I lose my job, my reputation, my son, and now him." I leaned against the counter, calm as ever. "No, Emily. You didn't lose them. You traded them. You wanted Jason, you wanted freedom, you wanted to feel alive. Well, you traded stability for chaos, loyalty for lust, respect for attention, and now you've got nothing left." She covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. But I didn't move to comfort her. That was old Mark's job, and old Mark was gone. The final nail came the following week. The divorce papers were processed, property division already skewed in my favor. My lawyer had done his job beautifully. Emily walked away with little more than her personal belongings. She stood in the kitchen, papers spread out before her, eyes scanning desperately. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "It's not fair." I looked at her, steady. "Fair? You want to talk about fair? You walked into my house with another man and tried to replace me in front of my son. You humiliated me in public, in private, in every way possible. Fair doesn't live here anymore, Emily. Fair died the night you chose him over us." She slammed her fist on the table. "You're destroying me." I leaned closer, voice low. "No, Emily. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure the world saw it." That night, when she finally left, suitcases in hand, shoulders slumped, no Jason waiting outside, the house fell quiet. Noah sat beside me on the couch, leaning his head against my shoulder. "Is she gone?" he asked softly. I nodded. "She's gone." He exhaled, heavy, like a boy carrying the weight of a man. "Good." We sat in silence, the kind that isn't empty but full of truth, of survival, of a bond stronger than betrayal. And for the first time in months, I felt peace. Not because the war was over, but because I'd won it without ever raising my voice. Because the best revenge isn't loud. It's quiet. It's clean. It's absolute. And Emily had finally learned that lesson. The hard way. You'd think the story ended when she dragged her suitcase out the front door. But people like Emily don't just disappear quietly. They circle back, convinced they can sweet talk or guilt their way into reclaiming what they lost. It started with texts. "We need to talk. You can't just erase me. Noah will hate you if you turn him against me." I didn't answer. Silence is a language she never learned to speak, and every ignored message was a sentence she couldn't finish. Then came the calls, late at night, early morning, numbers I didn't recognize. I let them all go to voicemail. Her voice cracked more with every message. First angry, then pleading, then desperate. The final voicemail came 3 weeks later. "Mark, please. I made a mistake. I want to come home." Home, as if the word still applied to her. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the voicemail to my lawyer. He chuckled when he heard it. "This will come in handy," he said. Because Emily didn't realize something crucial. Every time she begged, every time she tried to wriggle back into my life, she was giving me leverage. And leverage, in the hands of a man like me, is lethal. That Emily's first real attempt to claw her way back came at Noah's soccer game. She showed up unannounced, hair blown out, makeup thick, fake smile plastered across her face. She waved at Noah like nothing had happened. Noah froze on the field, staring at her like she was a stranger. Then he turned and jogged toward me on the sidelines. "Dad, do I have to talk to her?" I shook my head. "No, son. You don't owe her anything. Emily's smile faltered as she watched him run past her, not even a glance her way. Parents whispered in the stands. She'd been the mom who bragged about perfect family photos on Facebook. Now, she was the outsider. After the game, she cornered me in the parking lot. "Mark, you can't keep him from me. He's my son too." I looked her dead in the eye. "No, Emily. He was your accessory. Your prop. You forfeited the right to call him your son when you called me a placeholder. Now you're just an afterthought." She gasped, tears pooling, but I didn't flinch. Because the cruelest truths aren't shouted. They're whispered calmly enough that they echo forever. Why now? Emily had lost her job, her reputation, her lover, and her son. All that remained was her pride, and I wasn't done dismantling that yet. See, she thought the divorce settlement was final. But I had one last card to play. Months earlier, I discovered she had quietly siphoned money into a rainy day fund under her sister's name. At the time, I let it sit, bided my time. But once she tried worming back into our lives, I knew it was time to act. With one motion to the court, her rainy day fund became marital assets she attempted to conceal. The judge didn't like that. Not one bit. The ruling was swift. The account was seized, redistributed. Half to me, half to Noah's trust. Emily got nothing. When she found out, she stormed into the courthouse lobby, eyes wild, voice shrill. "You ruined me, Mark." I looked at her, calm as ever, and said, "No, Emily, you ruined yourself. I just signed the paperwork." The bailiff had to escort her out. Parents from Noah's school saw. Her humiliation was no longer private. It was public record. And that's when I knew. She was finished. Here's where the twist comes in. The ending no one, especially Emily, saw coming. 2 months after the final court ruling, she showed up at my door one last time. Not dolled up this time. No makeup, hair a mess, clothes wrinkled. She looked hollow. She held out an envelope. "Mark," she whispered, voice trembling. "This is the deed to my car. It's all I have left. Please, just let me see Noah. Once. I'll do anything." I studied her for a long moment. She expected me to slam the door, to gloat, to tell her she'd never see him again. But I didn't. I took the envelope, slid it into my pocket, and said, "All right, you can see him." Her eyes lit up with a desperate kind of hope. "Really? Really?" I said. Then I leaned closer, my voice steady. "Final. At his graduation. When he invites the people he actually calls family." Her smile froze. Hope turned to horror. Because she realized she wouldn't be there. Not really. She'd be the ghost in the crowd, if she showed up at all. I closed the door. And that was the last time she stood on my porch. Years later, at Noah's high school graduation, I sat in the front row. He walked across the stage, shook hands, and turned to the crowd. His speech began. "I want to thank the man who showed me what strength looks like. My dad, the one who never left." Applause thundered through the gym. I glanced at the back row. Emily was there, alone, small, invisible. She tried to clap, but no one noticed. And in that moment, I felt no rage, no sadness, just peace. Because revenge had never been about breaking her. It was about outlasting her. And I had. The placeholder had become the ending.